The Unwaiting, becoming the reform we demand. Good day, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today's conversation isn't just about politics or leadership. It's about us. It's about how ordinary citizens like you and me can become the reform we've been waiting for. Let me start with a simple but uncomfortable question. How long have we been waiting? Waiting for better leaders, cleaner systems, honest governance. We wait, we complain, we post, we rant, and yet the system barely changes. Why? Because while we wait, corruption doesn't. It keeps moving, it keeps growing, it keeps organizing. The truth is this: corruption is not just a government problem, it's a cultural problem. And culture doesn't change because we talk about it. It changes because we live differently. That's what the Unwaiting is all about. It's not a political movement. It's a moral and strategic awakening. It's about refusing to be bystanders in the story of our nation. You see, cynicism has become our national hobby. We've replaced hope with sarcasm and replaced action with complaint. We keep saying, "Wala na talagang pag-asa," when the truth is, the hope we're looking for has always been us. So today, I invite you to imagine something new, a movement where integrity, strategy, and courage come together to dismantle corruption from the inside out. We will explore the disease of waiting, how it kills progress, the triangle of transformation, the model for reform through moral, strategic, and courageous citizens, the 5-step blueprint, practical steps to start this transformation in your own city or organization. By the end of this talk, my goal is simple: that you will no longer see yourself as a powerless observer, but as an unwaiting citizen, someone who acts, builds, and reforms without waiting for permission. Let's begin by asking the first hard question. How much is cynicism costing you? Cynicism is not harmless. It's expensive. It costs us time, trust, and our collective future. Let's start with the personal cost. Every time we say, "Wala nang Magbabago," we lose a bit of our belief in ourselves. We become spectators instead of citizens. We stop volunteering. We stop voting wisely. We stop holding others accountable. Because deep down, we've convinced ourselves it won't matter anyway. And that's exactly what corruption wants, for you to give up. Then there's the community cost. When everyone waits for others to act, nothing gets done. Garbage piles up. Roads stay broken. Leaders stop listening, because silence is interpreted as acceptance. And then the cultural cost. Cynicism becomes part of our DNA. It gets passed down from parent to child, student to student. We raise a generation that doesn't believe in heroism anymore. We say, "Wala nang matino," and soon that becomes true, not because it's a fact, but because we stopped demanding otherwise. So let me ask you, how much of your life has been spent waiting instead of acting? Cynicism is seductive because it makes us feel smart. But real wisdom is not found in complaining. It's found in constructive courage. As I wrote in Paalala ni Lolo, hope without action is a lullaby that puts nations to sleep. We've been asleep too long. It's time to wake up and take responsibility. Not just as critics, but as creators of change. Here's the truth. Waiting is not neutral. It's dangerous. The more we wait for someone else to fix the problem, the deeper the problem grows. Waiting produces passivity, and passivity produces acceptance. Step 1. Passivity. When we wait for others to act, we train ourselves to believe we're powerless. We start depending on someone else, the next president, the next election, the next miracle. Step 2. Acceptance. Soon, we stop getting angry when we should. We start saying, Ganyan na talaga. That's the day corruption wins, when wrong becomes normal. Step 3. Cultural transmission. We teach the next generation that silence is survival. That's why every new leader inherits the same broken system, because the culture that feeds it never changed. So I'll ask you again, are we participants in this cycle? Do we unconsciously reward corruption by tolerating it? The cycle of waiting is self-feeding. It eats our faith, our time, and our future, one shrug at a time. But the good news is, cycles can be broken. And the breaking starts the moment one person, just one, decides to stop waiting. That's what the unwaiting means. It's not an idea, it's a posture. A decision that says, I refuse to be a spectator. I will become the reform I demand. This slide is the turning point. This is where passivity ends and purpose begins. The moment you decide to stop waiting, you become the most powerful person in the room. You no longer need a title to lead, a position to act, or permission to care. We are not forming a political party. We are forming what I call a shadow government of integrity. Ordinary people doing extraordinary, organized work. In corrupt systems, power hides in shadows. Our answer is to build our own shadows of light, of ethics, of courage. How? By cultivating 3 things: morality, strategy, and courage. These are the 3 sides of what I call the triangle for transformation. It's time to shift from complaint to construction, from cynicism to character, from waiting for reform to becoming reform. We are not waiting for government reform. We are becoming the reform. That is the heartbeat of this movement. It's not about noise. It's about nation building. So the next question is, how do we build this new culture? Let's explore the triangle for transformation. Think of corruption as a triangle. It's stable because it has 3 points: greed, ignorance, and fear. To dismantle it, we must build a stronger triangle: integrity, intelligence, and intensity. This is the triangle for transformation. Integrity is the anchor. It's the moral base. Without it, all reform collapses. Intelligence is the brain. It's strategic, data-driven, and analytical. Without it, movements become noise without solutions. Intensity is the heart. It's courage, resilience, and persistence. Without it, even the best plans fade. Together, these 3 form a new kind of citizen, not just moral, not just smart, not just brave, but all 3 at once. That's the key difference between revolts and revolutions. Revolts react. Revolutions rebuild. We're not just here to expose corruption. We're here to outperform it, morally, strategically, and emotionally. So let's look at how these 3 traits, the moral citizen, the strategic reformer, and the resilient activist, work together. The first side of the triangle is integrity. This is the moral citizen. The moral citizen is not perfect, but principled. They live the change before demanding it. They lead by example, not by slogan. As Paalala ni Lolo says, be the mirror you want your leaders to look into. When you become that person, honest, fair, dependable, you force others to level up. Integrity is contagious. In a corrupt culture, integrity feels like rebellion. But that's exactly why it's powerful. A moral citizen is someone who refuses shortcuts. They pay taxes. They keep promises. They do right when it's hard. They build inner strength.
because moral weakness is the seedbed of corruption. To rebuild a nation, we must first rebuild our inner compass. Without that, any reform is cosmetic. So the first call of the Unwaiting is this: be the anchor, be the example.
Eve a standard. Before we demand clean government, we must first clean our own habits. We must be the change before we demand the change. The second side of the triangle is intelligence. This is the strategic reformer. The reformer doesn't just get angry. They get organized. They understand budgets, systems, and laws. They read data, not just headlines. Strategy is what turns emotion into execution. Many movements fail, not because they're wrong, but because they're random. The reformer brings direction. They analyze the system, the budget, the process, the loopholes, and design smarter solutions. They transform moral outrage into policy reform. For example, instead of just complaining about road conditions, a strategic reformer studies the public works budget, identifies the missing accountability, and then mobilizes citizens to file a transparency petition. That's intelligence in action. As the art of smart tactics says, emotion without strategy burns bright but fades fast. Intelligence makes reform sustainable. It connects passion to progress. It keeps us from becoming just a loud echo chamber and turns us into a quiet, unstoppable force. The third side is intensity. This is the resilient activist. Courage without wisdom can be chaos, but courage guided by moral clarity and strategy becomes transformation. The activist is the heart, the energy that moves ideas into action. They organize, mobilize, and sustain public pressure. They remind the system that citizens are watching. But true activism is not fueled by anger. It's powered by love of country. It's firm but peaceful, bold but disciplined. The resilient activist practices nonviolent pressure, petitions, audits, forums, fact-based protests. Their goal is not destruction, but accountability. As the self-rescue playbook says, resilience is not stubbornness. It's grace under fire. Every time the activist is ignored or criticized, they rise again. Because they know, change is not instant. It's round by round, step by step. When citizens, reformers, and activists unite, that's when a nation moves from noise to momentum. When these three roles synchronize, citizen, reformer, activist, we get synergy, not chaos. Alone, each has a weakness. The activist can become noisy without focus. The reformer can become technical without people. The citizen can become moral but inactive. But together, they become unstoppable. This is how the movement gains balance. Moral courage gives direction. Strategic intelligence gives clarity. Civic activism gives energy. Together, they create a self-healing culture, a movement that doesn't collapse when attacked, but adapts, evolves, and spreads. That's the power of the triangle. It's not built on anger, but on alignment. Our mission is not to destroy the system, but to renew it from within. Not to overthrow, but to overcome. The question is, are you ready to take your side of the triangle? Will you be the citizen, the reformer, or the activist, or better yet, a blend of all three? This is where vision meets movement. If you've ever said someone should do something, congratulations. You just nominated yourself. Stop waiting. Start building. Every great reform begins with a small team that refuses to quit. That's why we created the 5-step blueprint for organization. Form the core team. 1 citizen, 1 reformer, 1 activist. Define your small win. A clear, measurable goal. Cultivate your base. Gather people who share your values. Mobilize for action. Execute with discipline and transparency. Institutionalize and replicate. Turn success into systems. This blueprint transforms frustration into forward motion. We are not waiting for government reform. We are becoming the reform. As I often say in workshops, you don't need to be in power to be powerful. The moment you decide to stop waiting for someone else to fix things, you become the spark that reforms a culture. So here's your invitation. Join the Unwaiting movement. Live with integrity. Think with intelligence. Act with intensity. Let's build a Philippines and a world that no longer begs for reform, because its people embody it. The Unwaiting starts now.